some besties! I made this sock dress a little while back, and some of you wanted to know if we could do a full tutorial. So yeah, let's do it. This dress was inspired by Rainbow High's orange butterfly dress. I used a toddler sock or a baby sock to make it, but you can really use any size sock and then just scale it down. Once you pick out your sock, you're going to need matching thread and a needle. We are making a little halter dress here where the opening of the sock is the bottom of the dress. This sock has some ribbing, so we're going to use that in our design. I'm going to cut a line just above where the ribbing starts, and this is where we're going to have our seam allowance. So I'm going to go all the way across, then go up and over. I'm using my fabric scissors. I have scissors that are just for cutting fabric. And see, I went straight across, and now we're going to go up at an angle. And then we're going to go over, making sure to leave enough space for the seam allowance. Cut another small rectangle from the sock. This will need a seam allowance at the top and the bottom, and I try to make sure it's at least large enough to go around my finger. Now we have all of our pieces. Tie a knot at the end of the thread, take the sock and go to that slanted edge, and we're just going to fold it over. You can hold it with your fingers or use sewing pins to hold it in place. Take your needle and thread, and we're going to start on the back, go through the sock and pull the thread all the way until you can feel the knot. Then go back in really close to where you just started and pull the thread again. Take the tail end, pull it slightly so you can see the knot, and then we're going to take the needle and go between the thread and then pull. And that's how we lock the first stitch so our thread doesn't come out. Now we're just going to go in and out, trying to keep our stitches close together and very neat, going all the way down. I really do enjoy hand sewing because it's just kind of relaxing. You just take your time and try to keep your stitches as neat as possible. I use my fingernail as a guide to try to keep them straight, so I always enter the fabric, right there at my nail, and then I go back in right by my nail. Hopefully that keeps my lines pretty neat. Once we get to the end of that slanted line, we're going to be going across the back. So we're going to tuck this down and go straight around the back. Trying to make sure you don't pull too much either, because this is a sock, and if you pull too much, it'll start to gather. And we don't really want to gather. Plus, since we need that stretch, if you make your lines too tight, you lose some of that stretch. So you want to make sure it's not bunching. So I periodically stop and make sure everything is good. Then continue sewing around the back until we get to the other slanted line. Then we need to just fold it over just like before and continue stitching all the way up. Take the rectangle we cut earlier, lay it with the good side facing down, lining up the raw edges at the top, and begin sewing straight across. Trying to stay nice and neat and making sure to give myself a decent seam allowance. When I get to the end, I'm back at that little tail where I started, so I can tie and knot my thread and trim off the excess. Now that the center of the collar is attached, we can flip it up and fold under the sides to match that seam allowance. Lock your stitch on the end and sew a straight stitch going all the way across. This is going to help to make the center lay down and be a little flatter as well. When I get to the end, I just do a little secure stitch over the sides so it doesn't unravel. Then fold over the top and sew a straight stitch going all the way down. When I get to the end, let's just sew over the edge to prevent it from unraveling. Tie and knot the thread with the string that was left over from the beginning. Now we just need some way to close the neck. You can use a snap or Velcro. I'm using a small square of Velcro. Use the needle and thread to sew it in place. Make sure the Velcro is very secure, and then it's done. It's a very simple little dress. It can be made in minutes. It's nice and stretchy, so it can fit a variety of dolls. Here it is on a Barbie, a curvy Barbie, and Rainbow High. And let's not forget our Integrity Toys dolls. If we want a longer dress, we just need to use a longer sock. I picked up this 2-pack at the Dollar Tree. It's like a really dark chocolate brown. I'm just gonna make it the same way. When I put it on a doll, I have a little too much space in the back. So I remove it, turn it inside out, place it on the doll, and then we're going to just pinch it in the back. Use the needle and thread to sew a straight stitch, tailoring the dress to the body. And if you plan on sharing this dress with other brands and other dolls, I would suggest doing your tailoring on the largest of the dolls. Once satisfied with the shape, trim off the excess. Then I'm just gonna go back and stitch over, making sure that all of those raw edges are secure. Then turn it right side out and put it on the doll, and it fits. With the other sock, let's try a modified design. I'm gonna cut like a little triangle first and then go over, always keeping the seam allowance in mind. Here we go. I am also going to need some elastic cord. If you don't have elastic cord, you can always sub for ribbon. When you open up the sock, you can see the kind of neckline we are going for this time. I cut 2 pieces of elastic. Let's tie a knot on one end. Starting in the back, let's fold over the fabric and begin hemming along the raw edge, going up the side. When we get to the point, I place the elastic right behind it. I was trying to sew this on, but I'm having a difficult time getting it to stay, so I'm gonna switch to a 1/8 ribbon. Finish hemming the top of the dress, place it on the doll. Let's go ahead and tailor it in the back. So we turn it inside out, sewing it in the back. Sew on ribbon straps, sew the other end in the back, or you could tie it behind the neck. It's completely up to you. It's still inside out, and I want to make this neckline right here just a little sharper. I want a more pointy V. So let's just stitch it together. And that's going to give us a point. Yeah, that looks good. Flip it right side out. And we have another little knit dress. But she might get a little cold, so let's make something for her arms. I take another sock. Let's cut a long rectangle, like as big as we can get it. Then fold it in half and cut just a little bit off the corner, making a hole in the center. Tuck the raw edge under and hem it to make the neckline. Take one of the leftover socks and cut 2 rectangles. Fold them in half. Lay the larger piece good side facing up. Match up the raw edges with the folded rectangle. Sew them together using a straight stitch to make cuffs. With the good side facing up, let's fold it in half. Use pins to hold it in place and to know where to stop sewing. We want them to be about even on each side. Sew a straight stitch from one pin to the other, then trim off the excess to make sleeves. We still have an opening at the bottom, so we're just going to fold over those edges slightly and hem them, then flip it right side out to make a little bolero sweater. Here's another pair of socks from the dollar store. We're gonna make that sweater again, only this time we're gonna make it larger. I love when we get 2 pairs of socks. That's a lot of doll clothes. I think we're gonna need 2 socks for the next look. Let's take one. Let's go ahead and cut a T shape. This will be the body of the shirt right about here. Then we have the sleeves, which will be right here. Then we need the other sleeve. I'm gonna have to even this out. It looks completely uneven. So let's fold it in half and trim it to make both sides match. On the bend, we need to cut a neck hole to make the shape of our top. Cut along the bottom so we can open it up. Then let's use the top of the sock, and we're just gonna cut it into 2 pieces and use it for our cuffs. Open up the center piece, match the cuffs to the sleeves, good side to good side. Use a straight stitch to sew them together. Because this sock is a little thin, it's kind of like a really thick pair of stockings, I'm just gonna go over the edge to secure it and make sure it doesn't like unravel. All right, that'll work. Repeat on the other side, turn under and sew the neckline. We just need it to be large enough to fit over the doll's head. Once the neckline has been sewn, with the good side facing up, let's fold it in half so the good side is on the inside, then sew from the sleeve to the bottom using a straight stitch. Repeat for the other side. Now all we have to do is turn over and hem it, tie and knot the ends of the thread, and trim off the excess. Flip the top right side out. Oh, and it came out kind of cute. Okay, I was a little worried for a second there. You never know how these things turn out, but yeah, it works. Okay, now the skirt. I take the other sock and let's cut it right about here. I want a long pencil skirt. I'm going to flip it inside out, fold over the top edge, and hem it using a straight stitch. And don't forget to lock that stitch, making a little tube. Place it on the doll, pinch it in the back, and sew a straight stitch to tailor it to the shape of the doll. This is very useful for when you want to use a sock, but it's just a little too large for your doll. You can just tailor it to fit. Problem solved. Once you're happy with the shape, carefully remove it from the doll, turn it inside out. I will say, since we tailored this to her waist and it's got like a more stiff seam there, we probably should have used a back stitch, and that way we would have a little bit more stretch to get past the hips. Good to know for next time. But now our little 2-piece knit outfit is done. And I think it looks pretty cute, giving us 3 different looks for fall. Because you know, it's right around the corner. We gotta start planning our wardrobe. All of the socks we used for these looks were from the Dollar Tree. I found this sock at Target in the toddler section. But you know, you can use whatever sock you like. You just have to tailor it to fit your doll. Thank you for joining us for a little sock fashion. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff and the Frog Vlog. And we will see you next time. Bye!